This is Mastering Your Wealth with David Gagnon, the podcast.
Taxes is definitely a conversation to be had year-round. And, when you turn 73, the government forces you to take money out of your 401k and IRAs. It's something called an RMD, otherwise known as Required Minimum Distribution. And according to a study by J.P. Morgan Chase, over 80%, that's huge, 80% of people don't touch their IRA money until RMD age. And then they only take out the money that the government tells them to do. I feel like this is a mistake, David. What do you think?
It becomes a huge mistake or a big tax torpedo for the rest of your retirement when that process begins. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't aware of this until they have to take it. And they've been saving into their retirement accounts for many years, been told to maximum fund their contributions. And I always say, you have to look into the future with what you're doing today. And one of the things that we clearly evaluate are the RMD requirements that are going to start forcing you to take income, whether it's age 73 for some folks will be 75. But how does that impact your income needs or spending goals? And what we're finding with a lot of people who've done a great job in amassing a lot of money in their pre-tax retirement accounts, they're ending up being forced to take income distributions that are much higher than they need, which means each year they're going to have to take that out. Your income taxes are going to go up over time. It's going to force you to pay more on possibly your Part B Medicare premiums because that's tied to your income on your tax return. There are other things that get more expensive, like your investment gains might get taxed at a higher rate, depending on how much income you pick up. I've done so many analysis over the years, and a number of folks, fortunately, reached out to us when they were years before their retirement date. And when we illustrated what was going to happen, we were able to put together a nice, strategic, diversified tax plan that mitigated those taxes and those RMDs in the future. And that had a big impact on how much wealth they were going to accumulate, how much taxes they reduced, how much more income they could create. And the sooner that people address this and evaluate it, the better the results will be long term. And when you get closer to retirement, you have to have big pain to get into better tax balance if we're looking at either Roth conversion options or Roth alternative conversion options, because you got to pay the tax on that money that you convert to a tax-free area. But for a lot of people, as you get so close to retirement, that might not be the right time to start converting things. And so it's a case-by-case, personalized evaluation. So I talk to people that very regularly about what they're doing with where they're saving their money, because you want to have not only investment diversification to mitigate risk and try to achieve competitive returns, but you want to be tax efficient in how you're saving your money into the different tax types of investments, whether it's taxable investments, tax deferred, such as your retirement plans, or after tax or tax-free, whether it's Roths or cash value life insurance that's been designed to maximize living benefits, and that was the main objective for that. Because if you can find ways to be tax efficient and you're not paying more than your fair share of taxes into the future, think about that. You don't have to take so much risk on your investments to overcompensate for those unnecessary taxes you're paying in the future to net the same or better result. And so looking for inefficiencies in all these areas of how you make your financial decisions and how you save and how you're going to disperse your money is key to really winning the game of financial success and take better control over the outcome. And so tax planning, that's what I've been doing for years. That's where my background is. And you have to look into the future with what you're doing today with your money and know the tax code. And here's the thing. The tax code is very complicated, right?
Well, and it's always changing.
And it's always changing. And if you understand the tax code, and then you understand the financial tools that you can integrate with the tax code, that's the financial and tax recipe that you need to find out that works best for your own situation so that you can pay the least amount of taxes legally for the rest of your life. And when you make great tax planning implementation decisions that makes your money more tax efficient or tax free in the future, when you pass away, guess what? You're going to be able to leave more money to your family or who your beneficiaries are, and it's going to come with a lot less of a tax bill for them, so they'll have more spendable money for their needs.
The 60/40 portfolio remains the most popular type of portfolio. And after taking a hit back in 2022, the 60/40 plan is up 15% 2 years in a row. Sounds pretty good. So what can we expect from the portfolio in 2025? Well, here's Morningstar's Jason Kephart.
I think you always want to keep a longer mindset with a 60/40 portfolio. In 2008, it lost more than 30%. 2022 was down almost 20%. So this is not a one-year investment. This should be like 5 to 10 years minimum time frame. But having said that, yes, stocks are more expensive now than they were a year ago. Bond yields are starting to come down. So you might want to check your expectations a little bit, and another 15% plus return might not be in the cards, but then it might. But there are some risks, I think, that are really pertinent to kind of investors keep in mind in 2025.
All right. So what do you think about this, David? Do you still think 60/40 is the way to go?
I don't use that cookie cutter type of allocation because we use tools that are different. We're not really using mutual funds, but the thing is that people have these splits because in their 401ks, they have these models that are kind of identified as moderate risk models, and they kind of gravitate to that, and that's kind of how their monies are allocated. And when we do portfolio analysis of these portfolios, and a lot of them they have this allocation, we're showing folks how much risk and volatility that type of portfolio is taking on their money, as well as what kind of returns, which have been kind of mediocre, especially in 2022, when both those asset classes, bond funds and stock funds, took a big hit. And when people saw that, I remember back in 2022 and 2023, we had a lot of radio listeners call because they experienced that. And what they were really taken back by was the fact that they thought that their bond fund allocation was their stabilizing portion of their plan. But people need to understand that interest rate risk is prevalent in bond funds. And when the interest rates in the bond markets go up, and those bond funds had purchased bonds at very low historical yields for many years that they were still holding, that drove the value of those bond funds down. That's why people lost money. So you have to really understand what types of risk your portfolio is exposed to. Market risk is easy to understand. People know that it could go up, and it's driven by what happens in the market with bad information that might bring the value down. Bond funds are driven by interest rate changes. And so what we do is we like to do these analysis so we can show people how we do things with implementing strategies that have airbags on your money, hedging strategies, buffers on the downside, and proactive tactical selection of their equity side of the plan, as well as their fixed income. Because we don't use bond funds. We use bond fund alternatives that provide much higher yields. They're short-term yields, they're predictable yields, and they come in every month. So they're a great way to stabilize a portfolio without sacrificing returns. And a lot of these yields are really close to what the equities are paying out, which are unpredictable on the equity side. So with the income returns that we can get on the fixed income side, that helps to show folks how we can stabilize their portfolio, lower the risk, increase their overall yields. Mm-hmm. And now they're in a plan that is more consistent, which is key. If you want to have better wealth accumulation, more income to derive from your investment plan strategy, it's got to be customized first to make sure we create the necessary income for your income needs, or have that as your stabilizer in your growth period of time and incorporate a better income component than bond funds. But you really want to take a look at, how do you build your customized strategy? Because everybody's situation is different. Their spending needs are different. And like we were just talking a little while ago, we also want to look for ways to be tax efficient on that.
Absolutely.
But I'm not a big fan of the 60-40 blend because when you look at the big world of investment choices today, there's so many different things besides your mutual fund options. I mean, we want people to do what the wealthy people do. The wealthy people they have more wealth for a reason. They do things differently. Truly want to build a customized plan using better tool and investment strategies that can help you lower your risk and give you a better consistent return, because consistency is key. If we find ways to eliminate those big dips in your value from market corrections, and we have more consistent returns, you're going to accumulate more money in that type of format.
We all strive to obtain the American dream. But truth is, it's going to cost you. There's a new report by Investopedia that found it comes to $4.4 million. This is how they break it down. They say retirement is $1.6 million. Homeownership is $930,000. You raise 2 kids, go ahead and shell out $832,000. And you have other expenses like weddings, vacations, stuff like that, $268,000. Those numbers are staggering, heart-stopping at times. The American dream costing $4.4 million, as they say here. With retirement alone making up nearly 40% of the American dream, David, how often should people revisit their retirement savings?
It's good to kind of look at least once a year. I mean, when we put together a plan and we get the framework in place and all the moving parts are in place, and we update it every year. And here's why. You have changes that occur all the time that affects your money. Your job status could change, your income, your spending needs might change, tax laws change. Your family dynamics change as your children get older. Now you're looking at bigger ticket items. You got to buy maybe a car, send them to college. I mean, so, every year there could be an unexpected thing that they have to kind of budget for or pay for or plan for. And so you just, and once we get the framework in place, we update anything that's changed over the years and or for that past year to see if they're on track with what we're forecasting, and if there's a better opportunity to make some tweaks to make it work even better because of some maybe changes in the tax rules or investment choices, then we do it. We incorporate it. So, planning's not you fix it or you put it in place and forget about it. It's a constant diagnosis, and then we prescribe a better remedy if there's something that's kind of going off the rails. So that's really a process that is lifetime.
Now, David, if you're like me, I cut cable a couple years ago. I've been streaming everything from, Amazon Prime to Disney to Netflix. Are you on that bandwagon yet, or are you still kicking it with cable?
I don't spend a lot of time on those networks. I know my wife watches some Netflix stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think my daughter has Amazon Prime. You know what?
You're too busy. You're working.
I'm too busy.
You're making the donuts. I get it.
Yeah, I can't watch series on TV. They're binge watch like a lot of people like to do. I'm tired at night.
Listen, I hear you. I hear you. I'm exhausted. For those that don't know, I have a 3.5-year-old, so streaming on Netflix, streaming on Disney Plus is kind of like how my household is run at this point.
Well, at night, whatever time I have before I fall asleep, I'm actually doing research or I'm looking into things that are informative, whether it's in the planning industry or taxes or healthcare. I'm a kind of a healthcare nut, looking at the different things that can keep you healthy and have better quality of life. Because to me, if you can maintain that through your retirement years, you're going to spend less money on things that are not fun to spend on, like healthcare. And do things that are fun.
No, you're exactly right. And listen, you've made your point. You're better than us. We are out there streaming Netflix and binging shows, and you're reading about living longer. But listen, I bring all this back to the streaming. I bring it back to Netflix. Let's be honest. Streaming has caught on. They've caught on that folks have cut the cable. They've caught on that everyone's streaming, which means they are constantly increasing their subscription price. Netflix is the latest one to do it. Again, their 5th rate hike since 2019. It goes from $7.99 to $25 a month here. At least it's gone up at least $1 more a month, this last one. So some will continue, like myself, to pay the higher prices because I value what they give. And listen, my 3.5-year-old loves it. What am I going to do? But it got me thinking about retirement accounts. They can be paying fees out there, and they're not as transparent, right? The fees are buried in some documentation you never read. You don't know what the fee is about or what it's for. How, David, do you identify what they're paying for and the value they get out of it?
Well, we can do an x-ray of the 401k plan, and where you find that information is in 2 areas. Well, actually, it should be all compiled in your summary plan document of your 401k. And that's referred to as the SBD. And then what you can do is look at that. And then what you also look at are what the fund charges are. So you want to look at the cost of the plan that your employer might be passing on to you because they're sponsoring the plan. And then what are your investments costing you with admin and management fees. And when we do a portfolio analysis, we're able to pull apart those fees and show folks what they're really paying for. And, it's important to understand that because, it's always good to know your costs, but you want to know what is the corresponding value and benefit that those fees create for you. A few months ago, I had a client that came in and they have a 401k and they were still working. They're age 62. They were going to work a few more years. But we did a 401k x-ray on that, and we found that their fees were pretty high. And their risk was pretty high in their allocations, and the return was mediocre. And so they have the opportunity, and they implemented it by doing an in-service rollover into a tactically managed plan that we could show them how to lower their fees, increase their returns, and actually have a lot less risk. And so that's an opportunity for a lot of people who are still working with 401k plans. They can do an in-service rollover to a self-directed IRA and take advantage of the opportunities that are far superior in many cases than what the 401k plan offers. And so it's something that I think it's always good to look at because you don't have to wait till you retire to do something better with your 401k.
For more details or to sit down with David for your complimentary financial GPS, visit masteringyourwealthradio.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, BWA, a registered investment advisor and an affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and First Financial Planners are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BWA, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone.
David Gagnon and First Financial Planners are not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.
Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interests of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure of the ADV 2A Item 4 for additional information.